Hey, it's John here. I thought I'd respond to a couple of messages on the Guitar Mastery Method Facebook group about how do you develop your ear for pitch and for tuning. So yeah, these electronic tuners like my Snark are great time savers, but I think it's true relying only on them doesn't help you develop your ear. So I'm going to first of all show you two ways to tune manually. Which involve a little bit of listening, obviously, and then I'm going to do part two, which is chord recognition. So I'm going to play 10 chords, some are major, minor, etc., and see if you can recognize the type of the chord. I'm not assuming you have absolute pitch, I don't. So for the second part, you don't have to say that's a C major if that's what it is. You just have to say it's a major chord or it's a minor chord or whatever. Okay, so tuning. So my suggestion is, first of all, set one string using your electronic tuner. Maybe it would make sense to start with a low E string, and this will make sure that you're in tune if you play along with recordings and backing tracks and things like that on YouTube or in our tutorials on Guitar Mastery Method. So I'm going to set the low E, and actually it's right. So now I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to do the others manually. Now the traditional way to do it is this. You press your finger on the 5th fret of the lower string, and then you get the string above to sound in unison. That is playing exactly the same note. So that's really close, so let me make it a little more challenging. Here we go. Now you hear those two notes are not the same. And also, if you listen carefully, there's a kind of beating or interference pattern between the two. You hear that? Da-da. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do is this. Get it in unison with the E string, which I know is right. There, almost. You can hear it's almost right. Just a little off. You notice it actually sounds louder when they're right in unison because you got two notes that are the same. Now another thing I'd suggest, depending on your guitar design, sometimes strings stick in the nut a little bit as they move back and forth because they're going off at an angle. Once they cross the nut, they're going down or to the side. So one thing you can do to just check the tuning is pull lightly on the string once you've tuned it. So I'm just going to pull on the A string a little bit and then try it again. Still good. So it didn't need to slip in the nut. What can happen is sometimes it sticks in the nut, you think the tuning's right, and then later on, as the humidity or temperature, whatever changes, it releases and then the string's out of tune. Okay, so next string, 5th fret on the D string, on the A string, pardon me. And again, that's really close, so I'm going to put it out a little bit. Hear those beats? These are close, so the beats are slow now. Sounds to me like it's a little sharp. There we go. This experience can be frustrating on a cheaper guitar or an old guitar where the tuning keys are a bit rusty, or they need some lubrication, because it can make it very hard. But this is a pretty recent guitar with good tuners, so it's easy to do. Okay, now the next string. Now that's way out of tune. I'm sure you can hear that. Hear how fast the interference is between? And it's flat. How do I know that? By experience, by listening to it. So Okay, that's pretty good. So now we got 4 of the strings tuned. Now for the B string, you have to tune not on the 5th fret like all the others, but on the 4th fret. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 here on the G string. So it's a little bit sharp. Hard one to do. Okay, there we go. And then for the last string, the high E, same thing, 5th fret on the B string. And that one's right on, so I don't have to change it. Okay, so that's a principle of tuning the standard way. Now the other way to do it is with harmonics, and harmonics are natural divisions of the strings, like the half, the third, and the quarter. Those are where you get the loudest harmonics. And to get a harmonic, what you have to do is to lay your finger very lightly. You don't actually push it down so it touches the fret or the fingerboard. You're just damping it at that point, right over the fret. So here's over the 12th fret. It's a different tone from an open string, and also it's got a lot of sustain. So those are the 3 strongest harmonics on an open string. How do you tune by harmonics? You use the 5th fret, which is the quarter of the length of the string here on the lower string, and you use the 7th fret on the next string up. So here we go. Those are right on. So you hear there's no beats between them. Now let me put it out of tune. Now you hear the beats? That means it's not in tune. But the nice thing about harmonics is you can just let the strings ring while you adjust the tuning instead of having to go back and forth, you know, press the fret down, do the tuning key, etc. Now, did you hear how the beats, the interference between slowed down as I got the tuning right? No beats. So those are in tune. So you do the same thing for each of the strings, except you can't do it for the B string. You won't get a harmonic that works there, so you have to do it the standard way, as with the other method. But that's a cool thing to do for 2 things. One is that you can really hear the difference between what's in tune and what's not in tune. And also you can use harmonics in your soloing, which you'll hear a lot of players do, like this. Alright, so that's the end of part 1. You might want to pause it there if you don't want to get into the chords. Part 2. In part 2, I'm going to demonstrate 5 types of chords to you, and then I'm going to play 10 chords without telling you what they are, and see how many of them you can identify correctly. Now, as I said before, I don't mean the exact chord, like that's a C major. I mean, is that a major or a minor or something else? So here's the 5 types of chords. Major. Nice, bright sounding, positive, used a lot in, you know, rock and roll and folk music and many genres of music. That's G major. Here's A major. Here's D major. Put those 3 together and you can play a lot of songs. Etc. Okay, so major chord, a minor chord, 1 note is dropped down a half tone from the major, And so, for example, here's A minor. Sounds sad, incomplete, a little more complicated than the major. Here's A major, here's A minor. Okay, so there's two types of chords, major and minor. The third type of chord is the dominant seventh, which is used a lot in rock and blues and other kinds of music. And the dominant seventh drops one string down from the root note. So for example, in E, it goes down to a D. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. And that produces a bluesy, incomplete kind of sound that tends to lead into another chord. So here's a E major, and here's E dominant seventh, which you can also play this way. Alright, so E major, E dominant seventh. Those are the same chords, I'm just adding an extra D to it. Alright, so now we got three, major, minor, dominant seventh. The other two take the seventh chord and play with a little bit for some different results. So here's D major, and if I take the D down to the seventh note of the scale, which would be C sharp, I get this sound. That is a major seventh chord. And major seventh chords, you find them a lot in, rock and stuff like that, also in jazz. They're in between happy and sad. It's an interesting kind of chord to me. Not quite as sad as the minor, which is, but in between this and this. Okay, so that was a major seventh. Here's another example, is A major seventh, as opposed to the major chord. Okay, so now we got four chords, the last being major seventh. And now here's a minor seventh. So you take a minor chord, I'll take A again, and then you add the seventh, which in the case of A would be the G. So it's got some of the notes of a dominant seventh, but it also is a minor chord. And that gives an interesting feeling. The regular minor is pretty much a melancholy, sad chord. The minor seventh is that high note which kind of lifts it up. Same thing with, here's E minor, and here's E minor seventh. That's a chord that I know Neil Young likes a lot. He likes progressions like this. Alright, so there we go. What do we got? Major, minor, dominant seventh, major seventh, minor seventh. And you might want to rewind that bit of the tape to get those chords again. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to play 10 chords. They're all one of those 5 types. See if you can recognize the type. Like that's a major, that's a minor seventh. Even if you just get major or minor, you're making some progress in listening to chords. Okay, so I'll give the chords numbers, and I'm going to zoom in a little so you can't see my left hand. All right, there we go. So, chord number 1. And I'll play each chord twice, so here we go again. Chord number 2. Okay, chord number 3. Sorry, I'll play that again. I didn't quite get it right. Chord number 4. Chord number 5. Chord number 6. This should be an easy one. Chord number 7. number 8. I'm screwing it up. Let me try again. Here we go. Chord number 8. That's better. Chord number 9. And chord number 10, completing the list. Okay, so here's how this will work. I will put the list of the chords in a little message when you've completed it. Do these on paper, obviously, you know, write down where you think each one is. Ask me and I'll send you the answers as to what chord 1 is, what chord 6 is, and all that by message, so that other people can, you know, try the test without seeing the answers. Let's see how you do. This is actually the second exercise is one when I was taking face-to-face guitar lessons, my teacher used this one, and I thought it was a really good way to work on your ear training. Okay, so good luck.